was leaving a friend's apartment after a small get-together on a Friday night. Nothing big, just food, a movie, and everyone talking over each other until it got late. When I stepped outside, the air felt colder than I expected. The parking lot was quiet. Most of the streetlights were dim, like they were taking turns flickering. I opened the Uber app, ordered a ride, and waited by the curb. The app said the driver's name was Jared, driving a silver Toyota Corolla. It was supposed to arrive in 6 minutes. I stood there scrolling my phone, not paying attention to much, just listening to the hum of the nearby road and the occasional bark from a dog behind a fence. A minute later, a silver sedan slowed down in front of me. It wasn't the exact same model I remembered from the app, but it was close. The windows were a little darker, the headlights looked older, and the paint had a few scratches, but it was silver, and it was here earlier than the app predicted. I figured maybe Uber updated the arrival time late. The car stopped right in front of me. The back door unlocked with a heavy click. I didn't want to stand outside in the cold any longer, so I pulled the door open and got in. The driver didn't look at me. He didn't even glance in the mirror. He just started driving. At first, I didn't think much of it. I buckled my seatbelt and checked the route on my phone. The app still showed driver arriving, but the spinning icon wasn't moving. It didn't update at all. I thought it was just the app glitching. It happens sometimes. The driver kept going straight for a long stretch, longer than it usually took to get out of my friend's neighborhood. My house was only about 10 minutes away, and I knew this area well. We should have turned left already. I leaned forward slightly. "Hey, are you taking a different route?" He didn't answer. His hands were tight on the wheel, both at the very top, knuckles pale white. I cleared my throat. "Sorry, maybe you didn't hear me. Are you going a different way?" Still nothing. That was odd. Even the quiet drivers at least nod. I checked the map again. My Uber still showed arriving in 3 minutes. My stomach dropped. I said, louder this time, "Are you Jared?" The man's head tilted the smallest bit, like he heard me, but he didn't respond. I felt a slow wave of heat rise in my neck. I tried to stay calm. Maybe he had headphones in. Maybe he didn't speak English well. Maybe I was overthinking everything. My phone buzzed. I looked down. "Your Uber driver is arriving. Silver Toyota Corolla. Jared." Right behind that notification, my phone started ringing. It was Jared, my real Uber driver. I stared at the name on the screen for a moment before answering. My hand was shaking more than I wanted to admit. "Hello. Hi, this is your Uber driver," he said. "I'm at the location, but I don't see you. Are you inside somewhere?" My voice came out thin. I already got into a silver car." There was a long pause on his end. "A silver car," he repeated, "but I didn't pick anyone up." My throat went tight. The driver in front of me adjusted something on the dashboard, something with a small, sharp click. "Miss," the real Uber driver said, his voice now tense, "what car did you get into? The license plate should match the one on your screen." I don't know," I whispered. "He isn't talking to me." The line went silent for half a second. Then Jared said in a low voice, "Listen carefully. Get out of that car right now." My pulse hammered so hard it felt like my ribs shook around it. But the child lock light on the door was red. I tried the handle anyway. It didn't open. I lowered my voice. "The door won't open." Jared was breathing fast. Okay. Stay calm. Is there anyone around? Any people? Any houses still lit? I glanced out the window. We weren't on the main road anymore. Somehow, without me noticing, we had turned into a long street with no sidewalks and no houses close together. Only a few dim porch lights far in the distance. Not really, I whispered back. The driver's shoulders moved slightly, not a full turn, just enough to let me know he heard me talking. The car slowed, not stopping, like he was deciding something. Jared's voice came through the phone, tight and urgent. Listen to me. When the car slows to almost a stop, pull the lock manually. It should still work. Then open the door and run. My heartbeat thumped in my ears. My palms were so sweaty I almost dropped my phone. The car slowed again, rolling near a four-way stop with no other cars in sight. I took a deep breath and grabbed the lock. The moment I touched it, the driver's arm shifted. The car sped up, fast. I slid across the seat from the force and hit the door. Emily, what's happening? Jared shouted through the phone. I can't, I stammered. He's speeding up. The driver's breathing changed. It got louder. He wasn't calm anymore. He was breathing like someone trying to hold something back. Anger, maybe, or excitement. I couldn't tell. I pressed against the door hard, trying to pop the manual lock again. He jerked the wheels suddenly. The car swerved. My head hit the window. It didn't knock me out, but it shook me enough to make everything spin. I heard Jared still yelling on the phone, his voice garbled from my spinning thoughts. Then something clicked. The back window had a tiny latch. I hadn't noticed it before. It wasn't big enough to crawl through, but maybe I could wave or scream out of it. I yanked it open. Cold air rushed in. The driver finally reacted. He snapped his head toward me, fast. I didn't see much of his face, but I saw his eyes in the rearview mirror, dead focused, wide, not confused, not scared, just locked on me. My breath froze. In that second, he lifted his right hand off the wheel. Something metallic glinted between his fingers. I didn't want to know what it was. He slowed again for a curve. The moment the speed dropped, I threw my entire weight against the door and yanked the lock with everything I had. It popped up. The door flew open from the momentum. I tumbled out, hitting the pavement hard, rolling onto the grass beside the road. My phone slipped out of my hand and landed a few feet away, still on the call. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the pain shooting up my leg, and ran toward the nearest porch light. A house, maybe 50 yards away. Behind me, the car screeched, not stopping, not turning around. It kept going, fast, like he didn't want to risk pulling over. I reached the house, pounded on the door until someone opened it. An older woman with a robe and wide, startled eyes. I didn't have to explain. One look at me, covered in dirt and shaking, and she just said, "Come in." Police came. I gave them everything I could remember. They never found the car. I started volunteering at the old church on Maple Street because my aunt worked there and said they needed extra help. Most days, it was nothing more than sweeping, wiping benches, polishing the brass rails, and taking out trash. Quiet work, easy work. The church was small, one of those old brick buildings that looks peaceful in the morning light, but a little too dark at night. The hallways always smelled like candle wax and old wood. The floors creaked no matter how gently you walked. Father Michael, the priest there, was friendly enough. Soft-spoken, calm, always thanking me for helping. But he was very strict about one thing. No one went into the basement. He didn't make a big dramatic speech about it. He just said it in his usual quiet voice the first time I showed up. "If you ever hear anything from down there," he said, "just leave it alone. The basement is off limits." I asked why, and he explained there had been a flood years ago. Not a major one, just a broken water main that ruined the structure. They sealed the place up because it wasn't safe to walk on. I didn't think much of it. I figured it was just an old building with old problems. But the first strange thing happened on a Thursday afternoon. I was sweeping near the back hallway when I heard a soft thump under the floor. Not loud, but heavy, like someone taking a slow step. I froze. The church was empty except for me and Father Michael, and he was in the front office. I was the only one near the back. I stepped quietly to the basement door. It was a thick wooden door with a metal chain looped across it, held by a padlock. The lock was old, but solid. I knelt down to listen. Nothing. Just silence. I shook it off and went back to sweeping. A few minutes later, I heard it again. A step, then another. This time, I didn't go closer. I remembered what Father Michael told me. Instead, I forced myself to ignore it, even though I could feel my shoulders tightening with every sound. That night, I told myself it was the building settling. That's what old buildings do. I didn't want to bring it up and seem paranoid. The next day, though, it got worse. I was wiping down the pews when I heard something drifting up from the basement. A soft, slow humming. A woman's voice. The tune was low and gentle, almost like a lullaby. I set the cloth down and just listened. Someone was definitely humming under the floor. My chest tightened. The sound wasn't angry or loud. It was calm. Too calm, in a way that made my skin crawl. Like whoever was down there wasn't trying to be heard, but didn't care if they were. I walked straight to the front office. "Father," I said, keeping my voice low, "I think someone might be in the basement." He didn't react with surprise or worry. He didn't even stand up. He just shook his head. "No one is down there." "But I heard." "I know what you heard," he said gently, "and you need to ignore it." That answer did nothing to help me. That night, I lay in bed thinking about the humming. I could still hear the tune in my head. Every time I replayed it, something about it felt wrong, like the notes weren't arranged for comfort. They felt empty, like a song someone sings when they've been alone too long. I came back the next morning because I didn't want to seem scared. I told myself I'd work only in the front, far away from the basement. But of course, I couldn't avoid it. The cleaning list that day had me wiping the hallway walls. The hallway right next to the basement door. I tried to work quickly. Halfway down the hall, I heard it again. Steps, slow, dragging, right under my feet. I froze so suddenly the cloth slipped from my hand. Then the humming started. The same tune as before, only clearer, closer this time. I couldn't tell if it was right under the floor or on the other side of the door. I backed away, but the humming changed. It wasn't gentle now. It sounded like the voice had turned toward the door, as if it knew I was there. I felt cold from the inside out, and then something tapped from behind the basement door. Just once, a single knock. I didn't wait for another. I rushed down the hallway and into the front office. "Father, I'm serious," I said. "There's someone in there." Father Michael put down his pen slowly and looked at me in a way I wasn't expecting. Not annoyed, not confused, sad. He walked past me and headed toward the basement door. I followed from several steps back, not wanting to be close but too scared to stay alone. He stopped in front of the door and rested his hand against it. "It's not a person," he said quietly. My stomach tightened. "Then what is it?" He didn't answer right away. Finally, after a long breath, he said, "During the flood, someone was trapped down there." A cold wave passed through me. Before I could ask anything more, something pressed softly against the door from the other side. The wood bowed inward the smallest bit, almost like a hand resting against it. Father Michael didn't flinch. He whispered something, maybe a prayer. I couldn't really hear it. The humming faded. The pressure against the door eased. The silence felt heavy, like it was waiting. After a few seconds, he looked at me again. "This is why the basement is sealed," he said, "and why I asked you not to listen." I swallowed hard. My hands were shaking. "What does she want?" I asked. He shook his head. "It's not about what she wants. It's about what she remembers." He put the chain back in place and locked it again. "That water rose quickly," he said softly. "Too quickly. The door jammed. By the time help arrived, it was already too late." I stared at the floor. "And she still hums," I whispered. "She hums the last song she was singing before the basement filled," he said. She was trying to stay calm. I felt cold all the way to my bones. After that day, I never cleaned alone again. Father Michael always stayed nearby. The humming didn't stop. Some days it was faint, some days clear. Some days only the slow dragging footsteps moved below the floor. To this day, no one goes down there